The Steffi Graf Stadion in Berlin was still buzzing. The crowd had just witnessed something extraordinary. Alexandra Eala, the 21-year-old wildcard from the Philippines, had done the unthinkable. She had beaten Elena Rybakina, the world number 2, the Wimbledon champion, the woman who had crushed her in Rome just weeks ago. The match was over. The handshake was done. The cameras were still rolling. And then, Eala did something that nobody expected. She pulled out her phone. Right there on the court. In front of thousands of screaming fans. She made a call. The tennis world held its breath. Who was she calling? What was so urgent that she couldn't wait a single second? And then, the world heard her words. What Alex Eala said after her victory has the WTA world talking. Not just because of what she said, but because of who she said it to. And because of the raw, unfiltered emotion behind every single word. The match point had just been converted. Rybakina's final forehand sailed wide. Eala dropped her racket. She raised her arms. She looked to the sky. The Steffi Graf Stadion erupted. The Filipino fans, the ones who had traveled from all over Germany, the ones who had waved flags and chanted her name for 2 hours, were in absolute chaos. Eala walked to the net. She shook Rybakina's hand. She waved to the crowd. She embraced her team. And then, she pulled out her phone. I called my dad, the beaming 21-year-old said in her on-court interview after the 7-5, 6-4 win. I just said, oh my God. We were just screaming, and my mom was there, too. I'm just really happy. The moment was pure. It was raw. It was utterly human. Here was a young woman who had just achieved something extraordinary, and the first thing she wanted to do was share it with her parents. The video of Eala calling her dad went viral within hours. Fans around the world could not stop talking about it. It was the kind of moment that reminds everyone why sports matter. Not for the trophies. Not for the rankings. But for the connection. For the family. For the love. In the moments after match point, it was a bit difficult for Eala to process what she had just accomplished. I am a little foggy right now, Eala said in her on-court interview. I'm still shaking, and I was shaking on match point, too. But I'm really happy with today, of course. It could have gone either way. I think there were really tight moments in both sets, and she's an amazing player. But it was her next words that sparked endless debate. She's the one to beat, so I'm happy to have been able to share the court with her again. The WTA world took notice. Aryna Sabalenka is the world number 1. Not Rybakina. Why would Eala call Rybakina the one to beat? The answer is simple. Eala has now played Rybakina twice, whereas she has yet to meet Sabalenka on the WTA Tour. In Eala's mind, based on her experience, Rybakina is the standard. And she had just beaten that standard. To understand what Eala said after the match, you have to understand what happened during the match. The 21-year-old was in trouble early, down 4-1, before finding her footing and taking 6 of the next 7 games to go up a set. The first set was slipping away. Rybakina was serving bombs. She was hitting aces. She was in complete control. And then, Eala decided she was not done. I think you have to give yourself grace while also being brave, Eala said after the match. It was a simple philosophy, but it had carried her to victory against one of the best players in the world. And I think for me, returning and my game in general, a highlight word would be to be brave. And it makes a big difference when I'm able to do that. Eala's courage was on full display. Rybakina had 13 aces and won 81% of her first serves. But Eala took advantage of Rybakina's second serve, winning 70.4% of those points and converting 3 of her 7 breakpoint opportunities. She was fearless. She was relentless. She was brave. She really started on fire, and she came out hot, Eala said about the world number 2. I was able to get a couple free points with my serve, and I think that helped. And just some good returns. She had, I don't know how many aces in the first couple of games, so I think getting the ball in play was a big help for me. The second set was similarly tight, with Eala ultimately closing it out in 1 hour and 32 minutes. It was the second WTA meeting between Eala and Rybakina, and the head-to-head now sits at 1 win apiece. The result also marks Eala's 5th career top 10 victory, all in straight sets, with 4 of those coming against top 5 opponents. But it was not just the victory that had the WTA world talking. It was the grace, the humility, the belief. Eala's comments after the match were not just about victory. They were about perspective. They were about gratitude. They were about the journey. I'm really happy with today, of course, she said. It could have gone either way. I think there were really tight moments in both sets, and she's an amazing player. There was no arrogance. There was no bravado. There was just a young woman who had just beaten the world number 2, and who was still processing the magnitude of what she had done. I am a little foggy right now, she admitted. I'm still shaking, and I was shaking on match point, too. The vulnerability was refreshing. In a sport where players are often coached to be stoic, to hide their emotions, to project an image of invincibility, Eala was honest. She was human. She was shaking. And she was not afraid to admit it. I think you have to give yourself grace while also being brave, she had said. The grace was evident in every word she spoke. She did not gloat. She did not trash talk. She simply acknowledged the quality of her opponent and the difficulty of the match. She's an amazing player, she repeated. She's the one to beat. But there was another layer to her grace. Eala, ranked number 35 in the world, had just beaten the world number 2. She had just moved to about number 31 in live WTA rankings, putting her past Emma Raducanu and closer to possible Wimbledon seeding. She had just secured her first ever Wimbledon seed. And yet, she was not focused on the rankings. She was focused on the moment. The phone call. The screaming. The joy. Eala's comment about Rybakina being the one to beat has sparked endless debate. Aryna Sabalenka is the world number 1. Not Rybakina. So why did Eala say that? The answer is simple. Eala has now played Rybakina twice, whereas she has yet to meet Sabalenka on the WTA Tour. Eala lost their first career meeting earlier this year in Rome, but leveled the head-to-head with a sensational performance in the German capital. In Eala's mind, based on her experience, Rybakina is the standard, but the debate is not just about rankings. It is about perception. It is about who the players fear. It is about who the rising stars look up to. Eala has been asked before which current player she would most like to face. Sabalenka, of course, she responded without hesitation. She has also said she would steal Sabalenka's serve if she could take any shot from any player. The respect for Sabalenka is real. But the experience with Rybakina is personal. The WTA world has been divided. Some fans agree with Eala. They point out that Rybakina has won a Wimbledon title, something Sabalenka has not yet achieved. Others argue that Sabalenka's consistency and dominance make her the true standard. The debate has raged on social media. The hashtag #EalaRybakina has been trending. And Eala, true to form, has remained above the fray. She is not interested in the debate. She is interested in the next match. The celebration was brief. The phone call to her dad was over. The tears had been wiped away. Now, it was time to focus on the next challenge. Aryna Sabalenka, the world number 8. The Ukrainian veteran. The woman who had clobbered German Eva Lies, 6-3, 6-2, in the round of 16. Svitolina is a former world number 3. She has won 20 WTA titles. She is a Grand Slam semifinalist. She is one of the most experienced players on tour. And she was waiting for Eala in the quarterfinals. Eala had never faced Svitolina before. It would be their first career meeting. The match would be a test of everything Eala had learned on grass. It would be a test of her resilience, her courage, and her ability to back up a massive win. Aryna is a very consistent player, Eala said. She is obviously a huge fighter with her background and her experience. But she's also able to be aggressive when she needs to be. So I'm expecting a really good match, and I hope to bring out the best and showcase my tennis. The tennis world was watching. The Filipino fans were praying. And Alexandra Eala was ready. She had already beaten Donna Vekic, the Queen's Club champion. She had beaten Elena Rybakina, the world number 2. She had secured her Wimbledon seeding. She had moved to number 31 in the live rankings. She had achieved more in 1 week than most players achieve in a career, but no matter what happened in the quarterfinals, one thing was certain. Eala had already done something extraordinary. She had beaten the world number 2. She had made the quarterfinals of a WTA 500 event for just the second time. She had inspired a generation of Filipino tennis players. She had shown the world that champions can come from anywhere. And she had done it all with grace, humility, and a phone call to her dad. "I'm a little foggy right now," Eala had said after the match. "I'm still shaking." But underneath the fog and the shaking, there was a champion. A champion who had just achieved something extraordinary. And a champion whose words had the WTA world talking.